Hi guys, this is Jamie. He's been in the channel for a while and he did the in-person course at the start of the year. He's been making some good progress with his trading, so I just thought we'd get on a call and have a chat about how he got into trading, what he does for a living, and how trading works around his job and the progress that he's made recently as well. So, how did you get into trading, Jamie?
I've had a little bit of time to think about it, and it's like a long term interest about sort of finances and where like how money moves around. And like, I'm self-employed. Obviously work for myself, so you have to sort out your own pension and stuff. So people were talking about where to put your money, and talk about S&P 500 and stocks and stuff like that, and which I still do. Um, you know, but then it just sort of kept in the back of my mind, how does that go up and down? Where does it come from? And then you see all this stuff on Instagram, the stereotypical stuff, you know, usually people in Dubai surrounded by 4 or 5 cars wearing, absolutely, ridiculous clothes. Um, but, and it just chipped away at me. And I've done some other courses, at home course, and then read a book on it here and there, all the usual candlestick patterns, which have subsequently been left in the bin. And then obviously that's how how I became aware of you, was off off your trading history. And then when you opened the channel, jumped on it with you in what was it, Telegram, and then went from there. And then when you then opened your own site, just started watching your videos and didn't commit to anything. Didn't sort of start trading live. It was just plotting out levels. To be honest, it was working out how to use TradingView and sort of looking at levels and back testing. Oh, I can do this, and then what was like, oh, this is simple compared to everything else that I've done.
It's interesting you should say that as well. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, right.
it's a good point because a lot of people they come into it from a different angle. They see all the bullshit around and they want to get straight into taking trades. And you usually get sort of beginner's luck. It's like if anybody who plays poker or card games knows that the new people always win. Like it's just
Yeah,
it's weird. So people get into trading and then they have a bit of good luck and then it sort of falls off and then they start to learn more about the trading. But they don't
yeah,
realize that your trading software, like TradingView you mentioned, which is what I use for my analysis, it needs to be an extension of your mind, basically. So if you are having to think about how to manipulate the software, you're already putting a barrier between yourself and successful trading. You have to know how to use that software without even thinking. So there should be a
mm,
long period of time where you just use being in the market to get used to using the software, what the tools do, how to get the most out of it, because it can be a big block for people from making progress.
yeah, definitely. Um, I honestly wish there was a way of editing TradingView where you could just get rid of some of the stuff. Because 90% of it I just don't use, and I've no interest in using. I've said this to Jay, doing the coaching, that like, you know, fib. And someone said to me the other day, "Do you use Bollinger Bands?" And I don't even know if that's the right way to say it or what it is, but I don't care. Like, I've got no interest in looking at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But the good thing about TradingView for me though is that if you just star favorite the tools in the bar on in the options bar on the left hand side, it just brings a floating toolbar on your chart. So I've got 4 or 5 different things that I use, and they're on my chart, so I don't have to look through anything else. That's it. Just,
I've got that now.
yeah, it's a very handy tool. It just makes things so much more efficient. But like you said, I used to have to scroll through all the different things to look for the tools that I want to use, but that's a lot simpler way of doing it. But you're right, there's a lot of
Yeah,
crap, but I never like um completely disregard stuff that I don't use because there's traders out there, there's thousands of ways of
oh yeah,
making money in the
yeah,
markets and people use them, but it's the people who come in and out of using a particular tool or indicator, and then they think, oh, this is great, and then it stops working, and then they move on to something else. They're the people that
Yeah.
they give these sort of things a bad name.
As I've said, I've heard you say before, if you have a bad week or things don't go your way, don't there's the temptation to jump on other things. Oh, this might work. If I add this in, maybe it won't happen again. But you know, it's getting to know yourself. Really, that's been quite interesting part of it as well, as sort of realizing over the past couple of years, I'm quite impulsive. So I'm like, I didn't mean to. That wasn't in my plan. Like I plan really well for the start of the week, and then you look at the end of the week and you go, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, and
Why
you
did I do
generally
that?
find that if you look back at your plan and what would have happened, the results would have been better.
Yeah,
And it does trading. It does make people. It forces people to learn things about themselves that they never knew and they never expected. It draws out
yeah,
personality traits, and it's really interesting. And that was a big struggle for me as well. I learned a lot about myself and it's not even trying to get rid of those traits, which a lot of people think they need to do. Like they read like Trading in the Zone and all these psychology books and think they need to change as a person, but you don't. You just need to put things in place to stop those traits presenting themselves. So for me, it's like even now, sometimes when I get into a trade that I don't feel comfortable getting into, but I know I've got to take it because it's in my plan, I just take the dog for a walk and get away from the screen because I know that I'll mess around with things.
yeah.
So it's
Because
just
I can be on screen, like I mean by on screen, I mean on my phone. I'm in clinic most of the week. I'm doing 60, 70 hours a week. So I've got access, but I've got access to the screen. But I'll just put my phone on charge. If there's something on, and there's certain ones where you think, yeah, this all adds up to, you know, it's ticked all the boxes, but I'm just a bit like, I don't really see how it's going to get there, but just just let it play.
Yeah, just be patient. Yeah, and a lot of times when I sit on the computer in the morning, and I see this with other traders as well, if they haven't got anything that's near, and they think, "Oh, price, it's going to take ages to get to that place," they won't just back off and allow the market to do what it needs to do. They'll then go hunting for something else. When
Yeah,
inevitably the stuff they've gone and found won't work, but the stuff that if they
yeah,
waited for does work.
yeah,
So with with
totally.
with you being in clinic most of the week, then do you
Yeah,
do any work on your computer at the weekend or to set up the week, or is you just
yeah,
strictly on your phone?
I do. No, I do. Most of the charting up is between the laptop and the iPad. Um, the laptop's quite easy because you can just copy and paste your levels
Yeah,
with your label on it. Daily strong, daily intraday,
yeah,
and then mark it up. And I've started just adding little notes to sort of different zones to sort of say, I've started tracking like the average drawdown that I get because I knew that was something that used to mess with me a little bit. So if I've gone 10 or 15 pips into drawdown, I'd be like, oh, but then if I know my average when the trade's still won,
yeah,
there's no need to panic on it.
yeah. That's a good thing to do. Yeah, so you know when things get to a point where they usually go wrong. So if
Yeah,
it's about and that's another good point because people are so driven by recency that if they have a losing trade or trades going against them, they start to panic and make bad decisions when really if they just let everything play out, they need to take the data for a month and then
yeah,
that one losing trade in a sea of what usually levels that have worked is irrelevant. But people
yeah,
they just can't let go of. I don't know why there's such a negative feeling around having a losing trade. Like I had a losing trade,
my
US
God.
dollar CAD yesterday,
Yeah,
but I had took the pound Canadian dollar level because both hit at the same time, and that one worked. So, but finishing the week with a losing trade, whatever,
yeah.
doesn't matter to
And
me.
I was like, because I can be on screen and I knew where I was going to cut it if it got to. And I was just like, okay, that's that. it was annoying because it had everything there what we look for,
Yeah.
and I was like, am I really going to get this? Because it could come back, but it was like, well, you've now gone to your mental, and I actually feel better about that. That's a weird thing. It's quite, because what was it? What did you say? The the market's in control then, but if you cut it, you're in control,
Yeah.
and that's quite a it's a weirdly nice feeling, even though it's a loss.
Yeah.
Because you've maintained your element of control, and you're like, well, okay, I've lost this, but I've still got this, and it hasn't wiped out everything else.
Yeah.
So, okay, you've preserved and you live to fight another day, and that's that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And if you, what I see as well is that a lot of people like jumping on a trade on a Friday afternoon who, when you look at their trading history through the week, they hadn't looked at dollar CAD beforehand. So this was the second trade of the week on that pair, and it worked. So you should have been up on that pair anyway. Do you know what I mean? Through the week.
Yeah.
But when people flip between a lot of different currency pairs and they pick and choose what they want to take when it suits them, that's a bad trading plan. So
Yeah.
you either trade that currency pair or you don't. You don't ignore it all week and then you see it coming to a level on a Friday and think, "Oh, I'll take that." That's cherry picking trades, and you need to rely on the strategy over a period of time to make profit, not just picking and choosing what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've not. I haven't made a conscious decision to trade, sort of GNGA cable. It just what seems to work for me. So then I've sort of stayed in the lane that way. I've had a couple of good trades on CAD before, so I've not been scared to take them. When I started, I mean, it's taken me a while to get to this, so you learn the hard way. I think that's the best way of learning it, being burnt, and then you work out what actually has worked. As long as you take accountability for it and don't just keep banging your head against the brick wall,
Yeah, a lot of people bury their heads in the sand and they don't look at the data and the reasons why, because it's never really trading ability or technical analysis that causes people to fail. It's risk management and emotional management. Those two things, which are personal, they're not anything to do with trading strategy. Whenever I do reviews of people who've had a bad week, it's because they've made bad decisions, and it's always the case. So you made a good point there. You've sort of gravitated towards what works for you, and that's why we get traders to look through 20 odd currency pairs when you're doing your level exercise at the start to see what works for you and what doesn't, because you will naturally gravitate towards particular currency pairs because you get good results on them, and that's the exact way to go. It's the right thing to do. I just wanted to touch on your progress that you've made recently as well, because you did the in-person course, and then I see the other day that you've got your first funded account now with FTMO, 140k. So well done on that one.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
what was the challenge like? How did you get on with that? Was there any? Did you just follow a process, or how did it go for you?
I followed. It sounds quite simple, as literally just following the process. And I did have a moment where there was almost like a day where I had to sit myself down because it was all I was thinking about, and I was like, right, you need to pack this in and sort of just let it become something that it'd be nice to do, but not. It's not the be all and end all, and try and still take it seriously, but don't hang your hat on it, sort of thing. Because I've cocked one up before, and I know why I did it. I remember speaking to Jay and just going, I should have cut something earlier. So again, that was something like we touched on before, that if you don't learn from your mistakes, they're pointless. But if you make the mistake once and don't do it again, it served its purpose. But it was just a question of accepting. When you see stuff again, there's a lot to be said for sort of what people see on Instagram, and then they try stuff and it doesn't work, and they think that they can only take 30, 40, 50 pips on something. If you're going to take 8, 9, 10, that's fine. Just take the 8, 9, 10 and just move on.
Yeah.
Like that was huge. To be like, I'm just going to take this and then next one. And when I started doing that, like the amounts weren't, you know, a spectacular amount of money, but that's when I realized that this is the reality of it. This is,
and that's again what I said a minute ago, using your strategy over a extended period of time to get the growth, emotionless as well.
Yeah, just like, oh, this one only going to be 4 or 5. All right, next one. Hopefully it's like 7 or 8. No. Yeah. But if it's not, I'll take the 4 again.
Yeah, okay. And that's the thing. The chart tells you where your target is, and once you start using the chart for your targets, that's when you can really free your mind from the whole process and allow the strategy to play out.
There was one, I remember there was one on the challenge that was like the second part of it where I'd passed the first, and it was in verification, and I can't remember what trade it was. If I could probably go back on the history and find it, but it hit a level, and I just set take profit at the APS 1. And I knew I couldn't be on screen for the next hour or so because I was doing quite an active session with someone, so I just put my phone on charge and left it. And I knew when I come back, it was going to be there or thereabouts. And then I just saw the notification from C-Trade. I was like, well, that's that.
Yeah.
You know, it just gives you this sort of ability to just switch off from it, because you're not going to like set your TP miles away and just go, well, I'm going to hope that, you know, talks, you know, or something stupid. It's changing the way you think about it and your expectations was massive for me.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they want to be swing traders by getting, you know, massive amount of pips profit, but they don't do the prep work of a swing trader. So people do like the approach of a day trader, but want the results of a swing trader, and the two just don't marry up. They just
I think people don't know the difference. I think people just see it as a trader and go, oh, he does that and he aims for this. And then the guy, like you said yesterday, only shows his winning bet and slips. And yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah, and that's what I said in the channel yesterday for everybody else. That people who do sports betting, they only ever show their winning bets, but they never show their full trading betting history, do they? Because they'll definitely be down. Doesn't matter how much they've won on that individual. And trading, social media trading is exactly the same.
Yeah, I've got a couple of mates who do. I think it's like copy trading or something like that, but I haven't even like touched on this with them because that's all they want to do. There's one who I think might actually end up joining the channel because he saw me. He came in to see me yesterday, and I'd had, you know, doing me and stuff and my day sheets, and he could start to see that things had changed. So you might end up getting. And he's a good guy.
Yeah, so that's the thing. A lot of people get into it doing copy trading, and they found that some people don't want to learn to be self-sufficient in the market. And I don't know if it's because they think that they can't do it, or I have no idea for the reasons. But then you do get individuals that want to learn and want to become self-sufficient, and they're prepared to do the work, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, but then I think I've had this conversation with Jay about like the background of having a business where you know that you don't have times when it doesn't go your way. And like, what are you going to do? You're going to shut up shop, pack it all in. Like, it's not an option. You keep going and you go, how do I get around this? And what happens? And how do we make sure that doesn't happen again? And it's the same thing. So I suppose it does depend on your personality.
Yes, street trading as a business, and it's the only way to make progress. Absolutely.
And it's a skill as well. Once you've I'm not saying once you've learned it, you've got it forever, but if you keep it sharp, I don't see why you couldn't have a long,
for me, it's the most important factor is if you know about market conditions, when to go and when to back off. That's the key. That's the skill to keep you in the game long term. It's just knowing when to strike and when not to.
Yeah, I mean, I've made so much progress since January. You know, it's been 4 or 5 years that I'd sort of been aimlessly plodding around, not really going anywhere, picking it up, putting it down, reading this, reading that, trying this, you know, over leveraging on something and it going wrong. And then, but since January, since I did the in-person course and made the decision to go, let's have a good go at this and commit the time to it, a certain amount of hours a week, and build a routine around it and try and slot it in around clinic and all your other work and, you know, work and responsibilities. Like it's been like the progress is, it's night and day compared. I've done more in 6 months than I have in 5 years. Like it's outrageous, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely outrageous.
And do you know what? It's all just down to structure and having a plan.
Yeah, structure and rules.
That's what the main focus of the channel Traders Pathway is. The pathway is the structure of how to feed back into your plan of when things go wrong and when things go right and optimize. And you hit the nail on the head there. For like 5 years, and then in the last 6 months of having a structure, you're now funded, and hopefully we'll keep the channel updated as well to see how you're getting on with the progress of your accounts as well. So
I want to start more, as I said in my post on in the group, it's just a time thing for me with data collection, which is that I need to work out a way around it. Tried a couple of different ways. Where there's a Google form that I've made, which then will give you the stats of your average drawdown and your average time to first, area of potential struggle. That's made it a little bit easier. But then try not to monitor too much as well, and just find out something that works. It doesn't, you know what you've got to do, but each person might have a different way of getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I want to do, is just give people the skills to find their own way. I'll never say here's the information, mold yourself around that. I'd rather people just have the skills to develop their own way. Like most traders that I've done the coaching with have now got their own spreadsheets because they've edited them that much for the levels tracker and the daily data sheets. And a lot of people use the time to the first area of potential struggle as well, because that's quite an important one. Because one of the guys in the channel that I've coached, Sam, I think his average was about 10 hours to get to profit, and then after that it really drops off. So he knows that the longer he's in trades, the less chance there is of the trades winning, and he's got all these metrics. A lot of people don't even consider that, and they may not have to, and that's why it's so individual to each person.
That was a major one for me, because otherwise you sat there looking, you're checking this, checking that constantly, and it's going to be 8-9 hours. She's like, okay, I'll check it in 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Exactly. And it just gets out of your head, because then once it's in your head and you're thinking, you start messing, and you're like, just leave it alone. You've done the work already.
Yeah,
you don't need to overcomplicate stuff.
100%. Yeah, keep it simple. Yeah, overcomplication, it just doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
Cool.
Massively.
All right, mate. Good chat. Try and keep these short. So appreciate your time, and we will jump on another call in a few weeks and see how you're getting on.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, I definitely recommend it to people. It's got to be, if you want to give it a good go, it's got to be something you consider, because there's so many sort of false. I think the stereotype of trading is what people think about it is wrong. This is definitely, it's a different way of doing it. It's a realistic way of doing it, and just get involved and commit a little bit of time.
Yeah, slow and steady.
Yeah, slow and steady, and it's phenomenal. It's ridiculous this last 6 months, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. No, I made it for you. Good work.